PFL CEO. What a great pleasure and honor it is to be joined by the one and only Peter Murray. Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hey, Ariel. Great to be here.
How are you, sir? Welcome. Have a seat.
You.
I mean, what a busy day for you guys. New York Stock Exchange, MMA Hour. Talk about going from the penthouse to the outhouse, right?
No,
you're there
not
ringing
at
the
all.
bell.
You got some great. This is a great setting, you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it. First time, I believe, that you have been here, right?
In studio.
Yes, of course. You've been on the show. Yeah, you were on Zoom not that long ago. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for stopping by. We've got the 3 other fighters stopping by as well.
Yeah, you got Pettis, Stevie Ray, Silvera coming. It's great.
You guys are in New York. Hulu Theater, I was just laying it all out. Friday night, the beginning of the playoffs, you're going to New York, Cardiff, and London, which is huge because you're going to make your debut over there.
Right.
And so a lot going on. I actually asked the audience this earlier today, and I was polling some managers, by the way. I don't know if you know this. I was texting some managers. I wanted to know who's the number 2 promotion in mixed martial arts in the world right now. I was curious. And I'll tell you, I asked 6 managers. 4 said PFL. 1 said one said Bellator. And then I polled the audience as well, and I got some interesting results. Who is the number 2 promotion in the world?
Majority rules.
Yeah.
With the managers.
Stop the count.
Listen, by all metrics in all sports, we're the number 2 in the world. As you look at the quality of the production, the caliber of the roster, broad reach in terms of our premium distribution, access for fans, U.S., international. We distribute to 160 countries. Our commercial business. So when you really compare that way, and what I want to tell you is, we're happy about our leadership position as number 2. There's so much growth ahead. A, for the sport, B, for the PFL, and we're not concerned about anyone else in the sport. We're focused on what we're building, and quite simply, our focus is on advancing the sport, growing the sport around the world, and giving fighters an alternative and an opportunity to compete on a major stage against top competition here in the U.S. and now internationally.
Well, I would agree with those managers. I think you can make the very strong case right now. Your production, the broadcasts have been great. I think very highly of your announce team. I love the announce team. The deal with ESPN is huge for you guys, obviously. And I will be the first to say, and I think you know this, I was critical of the format. I was openly critical. I am now buying in. I now like it. There are stakes. I understand that on Friday, Stevie Ray and Anthony Pettis are fighting for this. I understand that Olivier Aubry, I get it. It's not just a bunch of fights. And I like that. So I want to give you guys credit for that because I was openly critical, and now I'll say I was wrong.
Well, I remember, there were many skeptics. And anytime there's, disruption in any space, and in this case, a sport, there's always going to be naysayers. That's not how it's done. But our view was we were solving something for athletes, solving something for fans, solving something for, candidly, sports media platforms and companies. And so, at the end of the day, and you know this better than anybody, without great fighters, nothing matters. But our differentiators, the sports season format, the technology, as well as our storytelling, you combine that, it's different. It's premium, it's innovative, and it's a new experience for fans. And we cater to avid MMA fans. So fans of other, properties, they want access to more quality MMA. And we also have the data that the PFL is bringing over non-avid fans because of our true sport principles.
Okay, that is interesting. By the way, do me a favor, if you don't mind just bringing that microphone a little bit closer to you so we can hear you. I understand that you are changing up the playoff format a little bit, right? Or at least the way things are going to proceed from here. Can you explain that?
There's nuance and changes each year, to the rules of the league and the season. And as it relates to the playoffs, at least on our cards, what I could share is we really thought about how to curate an entire event beyond the semifinal, fights, the 4 fights on each event, which those are the main events. Those are the fights where it is win in advance, lose and go home. The winners in that semifinal get to the championship. Our championship, 6 world title fights, and major belt for the calendar year, so to speak, in the PFL, and a major purse of $1 million for each athlete. But the other additions that we made is, I call it a card with purpose. It's do or die for every fight. We have two lead-in fights to the semifinal fights, where those fights will determine who gets a slot on the 2023 PFL season roster. And the 2 fighters who win they'll punch their ticket and they're in. And some of those fighters may return. The losers, they're either going to no longer be in the season, or they're going to miss that shot to get in at this time. So there's high stakes, and so we're really focused on curating every fight counts. Not just the semifinal fights. And then on the top of the card later at night, we have additional 4 matchups where we're focused on our Challenger Series franchise, a new franchise we launched this year with Fubo for early stage fighters who are in their pro career, who are looking to further develop and get their shot in the season. So those 4 fights will determine who gets a slot in the 2023 Challenger Series.
And one of those fighters from this past season, Josh Silveira, now in the tournament, 5th seed after Antonio Carlos Jr. had to pull out, so he could end up winning $1 million.
It's amazing, but he earned that slot.
Sure,
we didn't put him in there because by chance. Listen, he was the alternative who earned that position. He had a great knockout, earned him 6 points or the finish. And then, unfortunately, there was an injury, but he's stepping in. And this is a big moment for Josh.
Okay, so there's a lot of business things that I want to ask you about. You mentioned the championships later on this year. That's where you have the titles and the $1 million on the line. Will that be on ESPN or will that be on pay-per-view this year?
We haven't announced that yet.
Okay, you could do it here if you'd like.
More to come, and we're working.
No better place than
we're working. We'll come back.
Okay,
and we're working with ESPN on all those details, and it'll be broadly distributed. I mean, working with ESPN here in the U.S. And as you know, our partner up in Canada, and but outside the U.S., there's a number of ways in which to access the championship through our media partners globally.
Will you do a pay-per-view this year?
We haven't announced that yet, but we have announced that we're launching our pay-per-view division next year.
Okay, next year.
Correct.
Okay, is there a chance you might sneak one in?
There is a possibility this year, but we are focused on the super fights division next year. And
what does that mean when you say super fights?
Yeah, I mean super fights.
So non-tournament, non-season,
non-season format, and we will put some major cards together, major events together. That will be global. That will be made up of what I would call needle-moving matchups and talent, and some creativity in how we put those cards together, fights that fans want to see, including crossover. So for us, it's fun. It's going to open up the aperture, I think, of our brand and of our model. And, if you envision a pyramid, as I look at our talent development system, as well as our sort of content portfolio of franchises, what sits at the bottom is now the Challenger Series. We're developing that next stage of, ideally future champions and stars. And then in the heart of that pyramid sits our season. That is the cornerstone of the PFL, that format. But now we're layering on top of that a pay-per-view division. And what that all means is, last year in 2021, we had 10 events, our season. This year, 18 events. We had 8 with our Challenger Series, 10 with our season. We're in our playoffs right now. Next year, there'll be 30 events from the PFL.
Really?
So, yeah,
wow.
30 events.
30 events, and that includes PFL Europe?
That's right. So
tell me about PFL Europe.
Sure. So, I'll break down, as it relates to numbers. You got Challenger Series this season.
So Challengers will be 8?
Correct. 10 for the season.
Yeah.
And then we're estimating at least 2 pay-per-view fights for that's 20 events.
Wow.
And then you have PFL Europe, which we announced, and we're also going to launch a combine, and those are unique events, and that's going to be part of the system too. So a combine works for
like the NFL combine,
like the NFL, like the NBA.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's an opportunity to identify, measure, and sign talent. And through invitation only, athletes around the world measuring physical, mental capability inside and outside of the cage, working with all the top gyms in the U.S. and around the world, supporting some of those athletes to try to get into the PFL. So a new way to identify talent. And then we have the Challenger Series. And on PFL Europe, what we're excited about is, listen, global expansion. This sport is global. It's really why we launched the league. The premise, fastest growing sport in the world, more room for more than one leader, fighters, athletes, candidly, that have the caliber talent. They just didn't have enough opportunity and stages to compete on against top competition. And so with respect to outside the U.S., 80% of the fan base in MMA, over 600 million fans, outside the U.S., And so for us, we really assessed first for fighters, is there enough talent around the world who can compete on a global stage like the PFL season? And then regionally, we quickly assess that there's so much regional talent. I mean, Europe is massive, and I mean, fighters are hungry to compete, and there's no real system. So we said, you know what, we're going to launch regional leagues around the world under the PFL brand, the PFL platform, the PFL format, regular season playoff and a championship, and we'll have multiple weight classes in Europe, men and women, who will be competing in that format starting in 2023, where then we'll have the opportunity to bring up European champions of the PFL, and those champions will then have an opportunity for a path to get into PFL Global. So it's really part of the system, and then our vision is multiple regional leagues around the world.
Because I know you've talked about UAE as well, right?
There will be PFL UAE. There will be PFL Africa. There will be PFL Asia.
Wow.
Perhaps China. It's not going to all happen overnight.
Right.
But we're very focused on it in all of those markets. And, it starts with one. And what I could tell you, once, we announce the one and we will fast follow with additional announcements. And then essentially we've created the Champions League of MMA.
Interesting. So PFL Europe, will we be able to watch that?
Absolutely. We'll distribute it. Those events in Europe will be staged live in Europe in prime time, different cities throughout that region, but we'll also distribute it globally.
And I'm assuming they're not fighting for $1 million, right?
They're going to fight for a big purse relative to where they are and their journey as professionals in the sport.
When do you think that launches? Like, when's the first event?
That'll launch in first quarter 2023.
Oh, wow. Have you guys started to sign people yet?
Absolutely. And then on signing, as we look at the Cardiff cards, and we look at the London cards, we're launching the first ever PFL Europe qualifiers.
Okay.
So we'll have 4 fights on each of those cards where we'll have fighters from throughout Europe, including UK fighters, who will be fighting for the first spots in PFL Europe.
Wow.
So it's already on, game on.
So this combine, I just want to ask you one more question about that. Like I've watched the NFL combine. I love the NBA draft, obviously the draft combine. I know I see them running. I see them. Will it be something like that will be televised where like I'm a 2-0 guy training at ATT, I come in and there's scouts who are working.
We'll have some of the best experts in the sport measuring striking capability, measuring kicking capability, technique and power, measuring strength and condition, measuring grappling, measuring defense, even mental sort of capabilities and reactionary skills. With other technology. So, and then, there'll be a skills competition and, getting in the cage will be part of it as well. So, we think the sport is ready for it now. There's enough talent. And for us, we are the league of access for fans. Fans want to know, how, who these athletes are, where they come from, why, what do they fight for? Why do they fight? But how do they get in? How do they develop? So we're really going to, bring the cameras behind the scenes, and with Ray Sefo, our president of fighter operations, our fighter ops team, plus a broader advisory group within MMA who will help us measure and make decisions as we, again, develop athletes and sign them at different stages of their career.
As you know, that's very important, but it's also important to have the big time names, right?
Sure.
And you guys have been active in that regard, signing a Rory, signing a Showtime Pettis, guys like that, established names.
Sure.
So that people tune in and then there's a trickle down effect and hopefully they stick around and see a Kayla Harrison who at that point is a 1-0 and stick around for her in the future. How active are you guys going to be? There's some big names who are about to hit the market, probably none bigger than Nathan Diaz. And I know he's still under contract. He has one more fight, but do you have interest in guys like that?
Of course. And what I could tell you is we're in all the conversations when fighters go into free agency. And, now we're a global brand and we're trusted. Earlier days when we were just starting out, it was challenging. It's okay. You got to build trust. You got to prove yourself. You got to execute. And we have proven that, we have a model that works and we're built for the long term. And it's now an alternative for not just fighters who are on the come up, but established fighters who are ranked in the top 10, the top 5, the top 3, and number 1. So, we're here to stay. We're here to play and compete. And not only are we going to develop our own talent through our system, we'll certainly continue to sign major fighters.
So specifically, like once a Diaz is available, Nathan Diaz, you will have that conversation?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people would expect that, but you guys are ready for that.
Well, I mean, what is there to be ready for?
Right. He's obviously going to command a lot of money.
We have capital.
You guys are good.
We have the wherewithal.
I like it.
And we're not a regional player. We're a global player, and now we're investing in the future. As I talked about, new franchises and year-round content, year-round events for fighters at every different stage, including the top stage.
I remember a few years ago when Shane Burgos was a free agent, you guys were very close to signing him. Now he's going to be potentially one again, right? He just fought his last fight. Any interest in revisiting that?
The Shanes of the world, listen, we saw him early days. He's currently locked up. And when he has the ability to talk outside of his contract, we look forward to that opportunity.
Do you feel like managers are starting to respect you guys in terms of like when someone is available, a Shane, a Nate, they're coming to you as opposed to just, back in the day, I feel like it was like, all right, last fight on the deal, let's just re-sign. Let's not test the market. Let's not test the waters. I was surprised Anthony Smith didn't test the waters. He did sign it. Maybe it was for the best because he ended up injuring his leg. But like, are they coming to you? Are you getting a heads up?
Of course, we have more inbound.
Okay.
We have relationships with the top managers in the world, and we have a tracking system, and we're open for business. Fighters know that. Managers know that. And in the end, our focus is on fighters who are confident, and there's a different aspiration today as fighters grow up in this game. There's more alternatives. So, as you look at, and we look at all different sports as we're building the PFL in soccer. And I know you're a soccer fan as well, and, beyond basketball and MMA, but there are 9 leagues in the world made up of some of the best soccer players or football players, depending upon, what part of the world you're in. 9 leagues that generate more than $1 billion in revenue.
Wow.
And so, the world's number one sport, soccer, there's talent from all over the world that it's the highest level, and they have alternatives. And, we view this sport very, very similar to that. And that's what we're creating, those options for athletes. And candidly, this fan base is underserved. It's underserved. There's not enough quality MMA year-round on the calendar for fans. And who says they just have to watch on Saturday night? And so, that's what we're excited about.
You have a long history in the business of sport, working for Under Armour, NFL. You come over to PFL. What year was it?
2017.
2017.
2017. We launched the league in 2018.
Would you have imagined, 4 years later that you'd be where you are right now, or is this happening sooner than you expected?
No, listen, this is a high growth venture. I mean, the vision was from day one, what we were building with our co-founders, my partner Don Davis, the other co-founders, and our ownership group. I mean, we've assembled, one of the most impressive ownership groups in sports with investors and capability across the NBA owners, NHL owners, Ted Leonsis, Major League Baseball owners, Mark Lerner, Major League Soccer owners, Ted Siegel, he owns the Houston Dynamo, and other, major investors in, not only broader business, but media and technology and entertainment. We just closed our last round with Alex Rodriguez. We're very excited and privileged to have Alex not only invest, but join the board. Major media moguls like Waverly sort of Capital. So, when you talk about do you have the ability, are you ready for, we have industrial strength in our ownership group, on our management team. We have a vision that we've been focused on since day one. And now we're on that next stage of growth. And, it starts with more content and a more robust year-round calendar of events with different franchises.
Were you worried at all during the pandemic? You guys took the break. Was there any type of fear that you wouldn't be able to return? It halted your momentum a little bit.
Sure.
Naturally. Was there any sort of fear that, wow, we had something, we were building something, and now it just came to an end? How are we going to get back on track?
Yeah, no, listen, that was, 2020 was tough on everyone, right? In society and in business and, of course, in sports. And, MMA, what the UFC did throughout that time period was really, really impressive and great for the sport. For us, It did stop some of our momentum. We did reschedule that season. But candidly, I'm really proud of the team because we then focused. We got back in the bunker, back in the lab, and we focused on making the product better. We focused on expanding the roster and essentially elevating the caliber of talent, which we did. And so that time together really was a good opportunity to sort of look at what was working for us, look at where we had challenges or opportunities. We focused on that. And then really we came out, super strong in 2021. It was a real catalyst for our business and helped drive to where we are today.
This is all very positive stuff, but I do want to ask you about Chris Wade. He's been very vocal about being unhappy with what he's getting for the playoffs. He's been in the organization for several years now. I'm sure you've seen his comments. I believe he said he's getting 30% less was what he approximated. What do you make? Is there any truth to what he's saying, and where are you guys at with Chris now?
Hey, listen, I like Chris Wade. He's a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah.
He's a fighter, and we're seeing something out of Chris that we didn't see in earlier years this season. He's hungrier, and he's in a different weight class. He wants it more. So it's exciting to watch that. He's got a healthy chip on his shoulder. I respect that. With respect to his compensation, he's got an opportunity to earn $1 million. That's what he should be focused on.
Okay. So what he's saying about the 30% and all that,
I think he's interpreting the mechanics of our playoffs and how it works. But we're good with Chris, and we're appreciative that he's fighting for us.
We don't get a lot of complaint. It's kind of in vogue these days to complain about fighter pay and fighters complaining about their pay and whatnot. Don't get a lot of that from you guys. So I guess that's why the Chris comments kind of stood out, because I don't hear of a lot of unhappiness.
I think the one thing that makes me really proud, Ariel, is I can't tell you how many times fighters within the organization or fighters who come to our events talk about how well the PFL treats them. But it's first on a human level, and then it's on a professional level. We treat all of our fighters as partners, not transactions. From race FO down throughout the entire team. The fighter ops team, the events team, the marketing team, and professionals in our name. And I think these fighters really now understand that. Again, going back to alternatives, like this is how it should be structured. This is how fighters should be treated. And what we do provide them is, in our view, an opportunity to make more money. And that's an incentive for them to come on over, not just in their show and win, but, with a big purse, for champions and so much more to come. So, again, we pride ourselves in how we treat the fighters. And listen, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
Where are we at with Cyborg? We going to make this fight, Cyborg, Kayla? What's going on?
Listen, I think that's the fight that fans would like to see. That's a fight that the PFL would like to get behind. Kayla said she wants that fight. I think it's going to come down to Cris Cyborg. Does Cris Cyborg want that fight? And whether Cris decides to come over to the PFL to make that fight and perhaps other fights happen, that's one scenario. And another scenario is a co-promotion. So we're proponents of both.
Right. Any talks with Cris? Because isn't she free right about now?
Our understanding is she is a free agent.
So what do we got?
We'd like to make that fight happen.
Any talks yet?
There's certainly been outreach.
Okay.
We're looking forward to getting into it in earnest.
This is great. I love the way you're dancing around this, but that's exciting.
There's no dancing. I mean, it's not a surprise or it's not new news that, this is a fight the PFL would like to make happen, or Kayla. And so, I think in the coming weeks, we're looking forward to seeing what's possible.
Any names that you're talking to right now that you can share with us?
Some of the top free agents who are out there, and then we're chomping at the bit for the next stage of free agents to actually be confident enough to be free agents.
Right, that's a big thing,
and it's in their best interest as athletes.
Right. I saw you with Clarissa Shields today, right? She was at the New York Stock Exchange. When is she going to fight for you guys again?
Well, she's training for one of the biggest fights in her pro career in boxing right now. It's for Savannah, and that'll happen in September.
Yep.
And following that, she's going to make her third pro MMA fight in November.
Oh, wow.
On our championship card. We haven't announced that. So she's going to, in September, after that boxing bout, She'll then transition into full MMA mode, and she'll be on the November card.
Okay. Do you know where the championship card will be at? Or
We
haven't
do.
announced
We
it?
haven't announced it yet. But you know what? I'm going to tell you first, and we can announce it here.
Oh,
and it's coming up.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it right now.
It's coming up. I can't. We're excited about it, and it's a market that we're looking forward to returning.
I was very excited about this weekend because it was going to be you guys on Friday and then Jake Paul on Saturday. Unfortunately, the Jake Paul fight didn't happen, but you guys are still running in New York, which is great.
Sure.
You've held some big events here back in the day at the Hulu Theater Championship events. I know there was like some flirtation with Jake on social media and whatnot. Did anything ever come of that?
We have a relationship with Jake, and listen, you think about what Jake has built for himself, and as now an athlete. Versus where he came from, what he's taken on, and the opponents, and the platform he's built. It's nothing short of impressive.
Yeah,
and he's ambitious, from a business perspective as well as an athlete. And should he want to take on MMA, that's something that we'd certainly be excited about.
Any concern about oversaturation?
Oversaturation,
meaning too much of a
PFL product, or
yeah, but not. I mean, so you say 30 next year.
Yeah.
UFC has 43.
Sure.
Bellator has their 20-something. I mean, we're talking about a lot of events for the consumer, right? Now, not everyone has to watch every single one of them.
Sure.
But is there ever the concern that too much of a good thing is not a good thing?
I think it's a good question for any organization. The NFL, it's
they have their little short window.
Only 16,
right?
Regular season, games.
17 now.
17 now. Yeah. Excuse me. 17 regular season games, and there's a focus on every game counts, and every game's a big event. And I think you do have to manage that. So for sure, and for us, there's global, events, and then there's regional events, and there's a role for each.
Okay.
And so, but it's definitely something that is part of our strategic plan.
One last thing for you, and appreciate the time. This is a lot of fun. I love talking about the business of fighting, and one thing that I've always been very passionate about is I think every organization needs a face. You need that guy, right? You need that guy at the podium saying, on Friday night, you got to watch this and that. Dana has done it for many years. He was great. Vince for many years, WWE, one of the greatest of all time. Don King, Eddie Hearn now, et cetera, et cetera. Are you that guy now for PFL?
I'm the CEO. I'm focused on the business.
But I feel like you're the guy. You're the face.
Business, and I'm certainly a face for the organization. And as it relates to a promoter, we're a little different than other promotions. We are a league, and leagues tend to operate a little differently, but we're all promoters. So I'm banging that drum.
Don is kind of spicy.
Banging that drum every day. Don Davis is banging the drum. Ray Sefo as well. It's certainly a team approach.
So you don't think you need that one guy?
Listen, we have a number of advocates that are promoting the PFL in our fights, and at this point in time, this model's working for us.
All right. Well, I wish you guys the best. I'm looking forward to it. There's a rumor that I might be there on Friday. I don't know if you've heard the rumor, but
we'd love to have
it's circulating. It's percolating. So we've got this Friday, August 6th on ESPN. That's a big thing for you guys.
ESPN Plus.
Yes, of course.
Simulcast.
But being on linear was big, right?
Sure, main network, Friday night.
Of course. We don't want to be on like ESPNU. We want to be on the mothership.
Listen,
with all due respect,
they have
ESPNU.
great platforms across ESPN. Hey, listen, it's an honor to be on ESPN main network, ESPN proper, in prime time, and candidly, with all of our events are simulcast. So we have broad access and reach through linear on the ESPN main network, and then it's totally a different consumer on ESPN Plus. It's highly targeted. Those non-avid fans, they're looking for these occasions. So we're really, really excited about the playoffs, and after New York, Cardiff and London, as you said earlier, Ariel. That's our while we're a global property and brand, when distributing to 160 countries, fighters from 25 nations around the world. But, this is our first time to execute outside the U.S., so it's a moment for us that we're really, really excited about to bring the show on the road to the U.K.
Wish you the best. Thank you for stopping by.
Ariel, thank you. Always
as always.
Pleasure,
yes, there
friend.
He is, Peter Murray, CEO of the PFL. I believe we have Anthony Pettis coming in. We're going to do like two ships in the night
You got
here.
it. Thank you, Ariel.